Hi there, Tilcon, New York, and happy Memorial Day weekend. First, a shout out to all those family members and veterans that we have in our company and in our families. Thank you for what you've given for us. We really do appreciate it, and that's the cost of freedom that we've had in our country for well over 200 years. So thank you very much. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about, get this all done here. We're going to talk about a few different things. So the first thing I want to talk about is grilling. Boy, I couldn't wait to get the grill back up and running. But there's a couple things I wanted to make sure from a safety standpoint, and just a couple of numbers, because I'm a kind of stats guy sometimes. So just to let you know, every year about 20,000 burns happen in the emergency response rooms from grilling events. 50% of them are thermal, either physically burning themselves from a fire or coming in contact with something. Every year, about 2,000 children, usually under the age of 5, end up in the emergency response room with regards to contact type burns. There's about 9,000 fires every year from gas grills, and 70% of them are from leaks and breaks in the lines. And then about 1,500 fires every year based on charcoal grills. So the real thing is, one of the things is never leave your grills unattended. So what I like to do is making sure, and I had to replace some parts this year in my grill, is that making sure that we're checking with regards to making sure you maintain all the parts of your grills. If you have a gas grill, natural gas grill, and the other thing is making sure you check for leaks. So with that in mind, if you have a propane gas grill like I have in here, I have the tank caught up underneath. One of the things that's important is that I'm checking for any leaks for all the connections. So what I do is I make a small sample bottle of water and soap, and I mix it up, and then what I do is I squirt it on the connections with the gas on to make sure there's nothing leaking. So if it's bubbling around the connection, that's when you can tell that you have a leak. So it's important from that standpoint. And we're gonna have to play with this, huh? Okay. Once again, making sure you're maintaining the parts, and then when I'm done grilling, I always make sure that I've shut off the gas. If you have a natural gas grill, okay, once again, you're always checking for the leak connections, making sure you're maintaining the parts, and if you smell any gas, okay, making sure you shut it off. Now, it has to make sure, if you have a natural gas grill, you had to have that put in by a licensed plumber. And natural gas, you really can't smell natural gas. So what they put in there is called tertiary dodecyl mercaptan, which is TDM, which is the odor that you can smell with regards to natural gas. So please make sure somewhere on your system, in your natural gas system, there's an emergency shut-off valve. So somewhere along the line, you're required by law to have an emergency shut-off valve. And then for charcoal, one of the things that get people in trouble is they like to use anything other than charcoal fluid. So please make sure you use only charcoal lighter fluid. How about this, huh? This is called a natural reaction. All right, making sure that you use a charcoal fluid. Make sure you're safe distance from the house with regards to charcoal. And then when you're going to finish up, make sure your coals are completely cool. When I lived in Illinois, I had a neighbor that had taken the coals out of his Weber grill and dumped them into a box, and he took the box and he put it into his garage. And what ended up happening is the embers caught on fire and ended up catching the house on fire. So please make sure when you take the charcoal, the ashes from the charcoal, make sure they're completely out. All right. So let's talk about something else. Now you can see here in the panning, if you will, you can see that where I live here, there's a little bit of woods and tree lines in the back, and there's some high grass and stuff. So some of the things that we deal with, not only in our own properties but out on the job site, we've got to make sure that people have a good understanding not to get themselves caught up with poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac, which are really kind of prevalent here in the New York, New Jersey region. What ends up happening is you end up with some kind of red rash, you end up with blisters, and I'll tell you from experience, it's itches like heck. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of calamine lotion on hand, some hydrocortisone cream. I mean, those are the type of things. But some of the ways to safeguard that is to wear long sleeve shirts, pants, making sure you got boots and gloves. You know, you have some kind of barrier skin creams. Quantum is really the material that should be in that cream. And then if you're using tools, make sure you clean the tools with soap and water or rubbing alcohol. So it's important to make sure you protect yourself from the poisonous plants that we have. All right, critters. Well, plenty of critters around here. Every once in a while we see black bear, raccoons, red fox, coyotes, skunks, deer, possum, snapping turtles, and obviously the dogs and cats. So, most of these here, most of the conflicts that we have with animals in these areas usually do not, animals will run away. Usually coyotes and black bear, if you scare them, you make noise, they're usually gone. Skunks could be, you want to make sure you're out of that 20-foot line of where they can shoot pretty accurately with regards to that. Deer can be pretty harmful, not only to our vehicles, but to our plants as well. And then, you don't think about snapping turtles, but some of these turtles get 40, 50, 60 pounds, and they get pretty big. And you don't want to put your hand anywhere near their mouth because they could snap off a finger. And then, even working out on the field, you want to make sure that, guys that work in the residential areas, you want to make sure that you don't trust anybody's dog or a cat because, you never know how dogs and domestic animals are going to happen as well. Also in this area of the country, there's timber rattlesnakes and copperheads. A few water moccasins, but you want to make sure. So in the sunning, you want to make sure, they're usually out sunning on top of logs. They're kind of hidden a lot of times in the leaves. So you want to make sure that you don't confront any of these. Try and back away as quick as possible so you don't run into anything from that standpoint. All right, insects and ticks. Really, there's allergic reactions. A lot of people have allergic reactions with regards to bees, but there's wasps, hornets, and yellow jackets. So you try and wash off the area as quickly as possible with soap and water. You try to remove the stinger with a piece of gauze, and you kind of try and wipe it out, or with a fingernail. You want to kind of dig in there. And if you can't get it, leave it. But one of the things you should do is apply ice. But you want to try and get the stinger out as quickly as possible. And then mosquitoes. Where Karen and I live here, we're pretty lucky. Not a lot of mosquitoes, come up this way. Thank goodness. So we could sit out in the evening and enjoy ourselves. But mosquitoes carry West Nile and the Zika, disease. So you want to try and eliminate as much standing water as possible. These guys and gals kind of come out. It's the female that really does the most damage to biting. So they usually come out in around the dawn and the dusk area times of the day, and then you try and get off, the spray off, which is usually a deep kind of spray. All right, and then we have. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is ticks. All right. This thing kind of ticks me off, if I must, if you will. So ticks are, they usually end up in wooded type of areas, high grass, leaf litter. Got a whole bunch of pile leaves. So what you want to do to kind of not have ticks around is you remove that leaf litter, you remove, mow, cut back tall grass and brush. And the last thing you want to do is maybe you want to make sure you discourage deer activity because deer are big carriers with regards to that. So some of the things with Lyme's disease, you'll feel aches and pains and fatigue. A lot of joint pain is what usually ends up happening. I've talked to a few folks that have had Lyme's disease and it's not fun. So some of the things that you could do is you wear light colored clothing. If you're working out in the yard, if you're working on the job site, making sure that you can see the ticks. You wear long sleeve shirts and pants. Make sure they're tucked in, either into your boots or your socks. Check your skin and clothing on a daily basis when you go home. And then removing the ticks, some kind of fine tips, tweezers. People talk about burning them out and using Vaseline. That's not really a good thing. You want to pull it away from your skin as best as possible. We did make a purchase for the guys out in the field. They're called tick keys. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see it's kind of indented like that. And what you do is you kind of put it under the tick and you kind of pull it up like real slow. this is, it'll take it out a lot more safely than you trying to pick out and the head breaks in there. So, okay, with that in mind, the word for this week is thankful. You know, we have a lot to be thankful for in this country. You know, with Memorial Day, for all the people, all the men and women that have given their lives in this country. You know, we all the freedom that we have, the freedom to do anything that we want. There we go. You know, anything that we really want. It's just an amazing part. So we have a lot to be thankful for. This weekend I had a lot to be thankful for. I was able to plant my garden, you know, my herbs and you know, a few vegetables that I can have here. But I'm thankful for, you know, my family. I'm thankful for all the things in my life that are positive. So with that in mind, Tilcon, New York, I'm thankful for you and, you know, keeping yourself safe. All right. Thank you. Have a safe week.